Got Rio.
Evening, people. New season, new intros, new logos. It's a rebrand. It's been a bit of a rebrand for Arnie Slot as well. But yesterday I had so many stories, so many messages, so many narratives, so many everything that it was the world's eyes on St. James's Park. And some were watching from Cloud9, some were watching from all over the world. And Isak had probably the best seat in the house, not at St. James's Park, but the same house that he got on a door. They rang his doorbell. Not me, not you, not Jake, not Ben, not Gene, not all the people in the chat, but it was the owners. And although he might have thought Halloween has come early, but it didn't. You know what? It was the owners. It was a last ditch attempt, and we'll break every single thing down. We'll also break every single thing down in regards to the big game. And boy, what a moment, what a strike, what a finish from the new star. If you thought Rio was just some young kid, a young pretender, then I don't know what you were thinking. And if someone wants to tell me he's all of a sudden the first choice at left wing, then I'm all up for it. Joking before I get clipped and I get abused as well. But take a seat. You've got us for a good hour or so tonight. It's been a while that I've seen Jake and Ben, believe it or not, on our screens. But yeah, not as long as the transfer saga or Isak's transfer saga. But Jake, it's been a while. How are we doing, my brother?
Yeah, it's only fitting I come on after the annual classic at St. James Park. So I wasn't able to make it to this one, unfortunately. I don't blame myself. I'm blaming Isak for that because, as I mentioned, had he been a Red by now, I would have been at that game, and I missed a great one. So good on you guys for going to that match. What a match that was. We'll get into it, but my goodness, that was some spectacle last night.
It was some spectacle last night. You messaged me on Instagram, Ben. You're jealous when Rio put it into that bottom corner. How was the jealous meter or jealousometer, whatever you call it? It must have gone up about 10 million times.
Oh, mate. So I've got my neighbours. I've got a young couple to the right of me and then an old lady to the next to me. And they're very quiet and very relaxed. And they were both wide awake at full time. I can guarantee that yesterday because our house lit up when Rio bagged that winner. I was going off my nut. I said, I can't wait for these watch-alongs because we're going to get clipped up to death. But my word, that was some game last night. You know, for large part of it, we were pretty shit, if I'm being honest, which I'm sure we'll get into. But when it really mattered and when the going got really tough, the mentality monsters come out to play. And that last goal was absolute class.
Absolute class. Gene, when we were climbing those steps, it's a lot easier going down them when you're singing Federico, he's here to win. I got out of that stadium and I whispered to you because there was a lot of Geordies around us, like, Gene, you bastard. Imagine that was our first debut watch along.
You know,
you'd be an internet superstar. Fuck Rio, you.
You know, the crazy thing was, Ben, Jake, yeah, we're walking out and I was thinking this when we were walking down the stairs, thinking, you know what, imagine that was a watch along. It would have been unbelievable. But I am not lying to you. I don't give a flying F. I don't want to do no watch alongs. I want to go to the game.
Here we are.
I ain't lying,
live retirement.
There we go. It's all out in the open.
They're good. Don't get me wrong. But imagine I missed that yesterday. I would be gutted, saying, why the hell wasn't I in that stadium? Why did I miss that 16-year-old's first ever goal for Liverpool? A game like that. Yes, look, of course, it would have been an unbelievable watch-along, but to be present, to be able to see all of that, you know what, it was a magical evening, and we were there, man, and I'm just so glad that, you know, the crazy thing was at 2-2, I'm thinking to myself, what have we done? How have we effed this up so badly? And to be fair to Asim, he said when Rio was about to come on, he goes, Rio might get the winner, you know. Rio might get the winner. And I was like, you know what? Let's see what happens. But fair play. I called a 3-2. I got the result right. So I'm happy. But big up to everyone, man.
There's nearly 800 people in the chat already. Let's get quickly. You know what? I owe Ash. I missed his super chat from the evening show, and I quickly took a picture of it. I'll take that first. Obviously, I can't bring it up into screen, but big up Ash. I messaged him straight away saying, I'm sorry. I only realized once I came off stream. But he was talking about how we played, and we probably touch on it later on. But he said, not writing off the fullbacks, but I wouldn't be shocked if we were in the market next summer for 2 fullbacks again in 2026. Bradley and Robbo upgrades. Okay, we'll talk about when we talk the right back and the left back situation. I'm sure we'll touch on Szoboszlai. I'm sure we'll touch on Milos Kerkez as well. But we've just got 2 members. Sanj Kera, thank you so much. I think it was Sanj who was asking earlier at 6 o'clock how to become a BNR Ultra. He has done so. It looks like my instructions worked. Thank you so much, Sanj. Get in touch with me on Twitter. I'll send you the BNR Ultra WhatsApp group. And be like Sanj and be like Tamana 1609. Become a BNR Ultra. Head over to the main page on YouTube. BNR member. I think it's under the memberships. It's $4.99 a month. You become a member in the WhatsApp group and all the exclusive content coming your way. We've already started recording in the studio a few pre-recorded shows as well. Gene's been in there quite busy. Don't know what he's planning, but we'll
cover him for all the matches he's going to. That's why.
Probably doing a preview show for the last day of the season, knowing him. But yeah, thank you so much, Tamana. Thank you so much, Sanj. You have officially become a BNR Ultra. And if you can't become a BNR Ultra, the least that we expect, the least that we want, and the least that we request is you'll smash your like on every stream that you watch and you subscribe to the channel if you're new. So do all that good stuff as we continue the show. Let's go straight into it, Jake. The start, it was always going to be intense. It was always going to be feisty, and it was.
Yeah, I have some interesting takes on the start of the match. First of all, I agree with you 100%. The start of the match was never going to go any differently. When I was kind of putting my thoughts together before the match on how I wanted us to kind of handle the start of the game, because as you mentioned, the start of the game is going to be difficult. There really is no right approach, if you will, on how to handle the first 20, 30 minutes, because no matter which direction you try and go, there is no right answer. I saw a lot of people suggest, let's try and take the fans out of the game early. And ideally, in a perfect world, yes, that's what you want to try and do. But how do you really accomplish that? There really is no way to do that. Even if you bang an earlier goal than we bang, you're not going to get the fans out of the game. You're going to silence them for a good couple of minutes, but it's not like the Newcastle fans are going to go away if you score an early goal. So that's not going to take them out of the game. If you try and play possession-based football, you're really just feeding into their approach, which is man-to-man press, heavy tackles. That's just going to leak into the fans even getting more into the game. So there really is no perfect solution to taking the fans out of the game. I actually thought the way we handled the beginning portion of the game was the right way to do it, which was allow Newcastle to kind of be on the front foot. It's not necessarily going to take the fans out of the game, but what that's going to do is going to give our squad and minimize our deficiencies in transition, and it's going to magnify their weakness of not having a potent striker in their team, which is exactly what we saw. First 20 to 30 minutes, they're dominating the bigger chances of the game. They're all falling to Anthony Gordon, it seems, and he's not putting any of them away. A lot of people had issues with the referee for the early portions of the match, probably even longer than that. But honestly, even though the decisions that he was making didn't go our way, they weren't able to capitalize on the set piece opportunities that they had in the first half. But what it did, when you're playing stop and start football all day, that's how you take the fans out of the game. And that's exactly what that did. And that allowed us to get some footing. We were able to score that goal probably against the run of play. But that's, in my opinion, was the best approach for us to get our foot into the game and at the same time get the crowd to kind of silence as much as you can at that point in the match. So I think up until that point, we handled things about as well as you could expect us to handle, because I don't think trying to take possession of the ball, trying to play front foot football, and trying to control the match that way would have been the best approach. I personally don't think so. I think what I'm trying to say is the way that we handled that first 30 minutes or so, I think that was the best way to try and go about the first 30 minutes of the game. Now, whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but I do think the first 30 minutes couldn't have gone any better for us than how they unfolded. Now, obviously, from that point forward, it's a different conversation, but for that first 30 minutes or so, I thought we handled it very, very well. And shout out to Sobo for those first 30 minutes. I thought he was the best player for us on the pitch at right back.
I'm going to come back to you because you asked my next question. Was it intentional, or do you have to give credit to Newcastle? Because our outball was Alisson to Gakpo, and the amount of times that we went with it was obviously noticeable. Do you think that was forced upon, or was it a deliberate tactic that we went to from Ali to Gakpo all this every single time? Or do you think that we were showing some deficiencies against a really aggressive press where we just simply couldn't and wasn't good enough to play through it?
If I'm being honest in my answer, I think it's going to be the latter, and I'm going to say that I don't think we were good enough in our build up, to play through it. But as I mentioned, I do think that was the best way to handle the overall situation, because if you're playing through their press and the game is fluid, and what I mean by fluid is it's not stopping, it's just going to make the environment in the situation magnified, and you're going to see heavier tackles, you're going to see more pressure. And when the opposition, Newcastle in this situation, is playing that type of football, the fans are just going to be in the game that much more. But when the referee's blowing the whistle, stopping the game, you're playing long ball, and then there's a foul, and it's stop and start football, that's how you get the fans out of the game. And that's exactly what happened. So while a lot of people were upset with the decisions that the referee was making, and I can understand that, I think that played into our hands more than anything. Now, had we conceded a set piece goal, my opinion might be different, but we didn't at that point in time. For the first 30 minutes, I'm speaking only.
Ben, what was your take on the start of the game?
Yeah, very similar to Jake, to be honest. I think there's loads of caveats. We didn't play well in the first half, full stop. But the reality is, I think you just got to look at the bigger situation. I don't think we will play a harder away game this season than that last night. And not because they're a world-class team, but purely because of the situation, the atmosphere, the pressure, all of the noise around it. And you add to that the fact that we were absolutely undercooked. And we are, because it was Gravenberch's first start. So he's not, he's not at his sharpest, even though he played really well. McAllister wasn't there, who's our best controller midfielder by a country mile. So Boslai's our legs, and he had to play at right back. So our first choice midfield three from last season was all at sea to a certain degree. And their first choice midfield is arguably one of the best midfield threes in the country, and they had the extra motivation and fired up to absolutely go at us full pelt. So I think it was really difficult. I was trying to sort of compare it. I think about some big European games where we've had it at Anfield, where we've come up against a team that they are far superior in quality to us, but we level the scales because we make it difficult. We go long, we run the channels, we kick to touch, we get the crowd behind us, and everything just goes on a bit of a spiral and a little bit of a snowball effect, and then you just dragged along. I saw a fabulous stat that the ball was in play for 40 minutes in the entire game.
Yeah.
40 minutes. And well, I know we'll move on to the second half, but that's essentially people saying like, oh, they completely dominated and controlled the game. They didn't. They just dominated the space and the areas that would really hurt us. Every single time they had the ball, once they went down to 10 men, they just pumped it into our box. Now, don't get me wrong. It's the fact that Konate's having a bit of a nightmare at the moment, that we didn't deal with a lot of that aerial bombardment. Kirkes was obviously poor on their first goal as well. But the reality is they didn't out-football us. They just used us in the right areas of the pitch and just put us in places that we didn't want to and made things really difficult. As Slot said, it was long throw after long throw. It was long ball after long ball, free kick from every angle. It was like it felt like it was a bit of a glorified Stoke, just bombarding us with everything they could possibly do, because that's all they could do. But just going back to the first half, I think we dealt with it as good as realistically possible. But we were never, ever going to go and just knock it around 1-2 touch passing in that first half, given the whole scenario that we were dealing with. They were like, it was like a bear pit. I can't imagine what it would have been like in the stadium. You know, they were after us from the off. So I think, given the situation, for us to go in 1-0 up at half time, that was you know, a superb situation. And you know, second half, obviously, we the one thing we didn't do is put our foot on the gas more and try and control it. But again, they went really brave. Credits to Eddie Howe, went 4-3-2, boxed us in with a tight formation and just played the channels and played the percentages. And you know, they got the rewards, but they got the rewards from a punted long ball into the box and a set piece. So it is what it is.
Ben, look, we can sugarcoat as much as we want in terms of, you know, it was a long ball, but Newcastle were down to 10 men. And for Liverpool, Newcastle were down to 10 men. That was their only way of trying to get back into the game. It was going to be the sad thing is, from a Liverpool perspective, and look, for me, result is all that matters. But if I want to actually deep dive into the actual performance and where the issues happened, you cannot allow teams to do that to you, because there was a time where from a fifth, there's about 10-minute period in that game in the second half where we had 11 men, they had 10. They battered the shit out of us with long balls, corners, everything. And we were second to the ball. We couldn't get out. There was no creativity. We had nothing in that midfield. Or I felt as though our fullbacks were shitting bricks. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'll say it exactly how it is. Kirkes was shitting bricks to get forward because we just didn't want to let because we were scared that if we lose the ball, we're going to get hit in transition. It felt like we had the 10 men and they had the 11. And that's one thing that I wasn't happy about during the game, because you simply can't allow a team like Newcastle, who are down to 10, 2-0 down, pile pressure on us the way they did. I don't care what anybody says about the crowd. I don't care. They can have 100,000 fans in there. Doesn't matter. You cannot allow any team with 10 men, 2-0 down, back into the game. And we allowed that twice. They managed to get 2 goals from it. Yes, they were from punts, you know, long balls. I think Kirkes was shit off for the first goal. And even for the second goal, Ibu Konate was dog shit. Ibu Konate was dog shit the whole game. Let's be honest. He might have won a few headers. He shits it whenever he receives the ball. And whenever we have the ball in terms of build up, he doesn't really give us anything. I understand, you know, it was you know, that's not part of his game. He needs to improve on that. But when you're playing for Liverpool Football Club, you have to be able to do a bit more. And he's another one that needs to flip and sort himself out, because we have a massive game on Sunday against Arsenal. You simply cannot make mistakes the way we made them against Newcastle. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to get punished.
I think the situation with Konate, I think he's not in great form, full stop, in terms of his defending. When he's on it, his defending is normally superb. But I think what has been mentioned by a few, I think Asim's mentioned it a couple of times, but we've all probably mentioned it, is that he probably is missing Trent a little bit, because Trent, his outball at the moment is just to go long, whereas his outball used to be to Trent, who could play it into midfield from that deep progression, and we are missing that now. Funnily enough, Szoboszlai, I thought, played really, really well last night, but then ironically, that's not Szoboszlai's greatest gift either, is playing those really dynamic balls from deep. because he sometimes struggled to play balls through the lines as well. His game's all about running power and whatnot. And I think Kirkes on the other side. I think it's a good point what you made. I thought he was a much, he was solid in the first half. I didn't really feel like we were under threat at all that much from I think he nullified Elanga quite well, to be honest. He's obviously his pace that matches him.
My issue isn't, look, he might have defended pretty well. I'm not having a go at him, but and Asim was there, and you can ask him. Even when I was saying to him, I go, there were so many opportunities for him to go forward. The ball was going on that left hand side. He could have gone forward. There was nobody around him, but they wouldn't. They just tried to keep it. Yeah, and as soon as they got pressed, we'd lose the ball, especially in the second half. That's what was getting to me. But we had a man over, and we still couldn't penetrate Newcastle the way we should have done.
Yeah. Do you think that goes back to the balance question then, about they're still trying to find that right balance in terms of how much they commit? Because last week we got criticised for overcommitting, didn't we? So maybe it was a case this week of being a little bit more conservative. And then when the 10 men came, it was like we were caught between two sticks. Do we sit on it, the 2-0? Because naturally, away from home against Newcastle, you would sit on a 2-0. And I suppose you probably should go for the jugular, shouldn't you? But the natural instinct in you is like, well, we've got this, we'll sit on it. And they got caught between two sticks a little bit, didn't they?
Look, it can happen where, you just take your foot off the gas. You're in cruise control, Jake. We were in cruise control. I watched the game back today. I always like doing so because sometimes you're involved in the whole emotion. And what I would say is, I know it's the same for any type of game that you go watch live. You seem to suffer a lot more than what you're watching on TV. But when I watched this back, it did remain consistent with the fact that what I just said, where I thought Liverpool were in control a lot more than what I thought and how I felt when it was at the ground. I thought we suffered a lot more as a fan base and as a team when you were there, especially late on in those added minutes before we got the winner. But that second goal, when we scored it, just after that, I thought we controlled the game really well for 5 minutes or so. It's just exactly how we should play against 10 men. Slow it down, let them entice, play around them, play the triangles, find the spare man, accelerate play, something exactly what we did for the goal, Jake. But I thought it was really bad defending from Kirkes for their first goal. It was a nothing challenge. And Bruno Guimaraes is probably not as much taller than Kirkes. I don't even know their exact heights. But for me, although he was okay in the game, I thought that was a really bad moment for the team, and especially Milos Kirkes, because that instigated all the pressure for me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot to go over here. First of all, when we're talking about Kirkes, and I wanted to bring this up when Chin was talking about his positioning earlier, he's being used the exact same way we're using Robertson last season. So the fact that we're not using him to bomb forward, I wouldn't say should come to a surprise to anybody. Now, obviously, his style suits him being more of an attacking style fullback than a positional style fullback, where he's being used deeper in the pitch and more as kind of an extra defender. So I don't think that suits his game the way that we're using him right now. But as Ben mentioned, there comes a point in time where as a manager, he has to decide how he wants to use his fullbacks. And if he wants to be ultra aggressive and play his fullbacks higher up the pitch and leave the defense a little bit more open and apt to being hit on the counterattack. We've seen that happen already, and the fans have been vocal about that being an unnecessary move. But to get to your point, I mentioned this to you throughout the entirety of the second half of last season, and we're seeing it again this season, and you're even seeing it against 10 men. Part of it, of course, is a lack of being able to play through Newcastle in the build-up. But the other part is the manager goes conservative, and he's not afraid to defend the lead. And I'm not necessarily against that when you're playing against 11 men, but when you're playing against 10 men.
Jake, I'm sorry to interject. How are you blaming the manager for this?
Because I think
at 2-0, you tell me, why should Arne Slot be blamed how he played yesterday? Okay.
First of all, you are correct in saying that from a personnel perspective, Kirk Cousins' mistake that led to that goal is what changed the complexion of the game. That's for sure. But as a manager, just in general, his go-to philosophy is when you're winning, whether it's by 1 goal or 2 goal, is to sit back, defend the lead, soak up the pressure, and try and play counterattack style football. Even against 10 men, that was his strategy, and it didn't work. So I blame the manager for not keeping, I don't want to say keeping the foot on the gas per se, but not being more aggressive and just trying to control the game, control the ball, not allow Newcastle to have possession and allow the fans back into the game. I'll be honest with you. Once, I think it was around 70th minute or so, 75th minute. I don't remember exactly when they scored the first goal, but a few minutes after that, when they continued to have pressure and possession of the ball, I knew a second goal was coming. I was waiting for the second goal to come. So I blame the manager because we shouldn't be playing that way against 10 men. It's unnecessary. You have 11 men against 10. Have the ball, control the game. You don't have to be on the front foot to the point where you're pushing aggressively to score a third goal, but at least control the ball, control the game, take all of the fizz out of the game. What Newcastle did a brilliant job of was they might not have been creating loads of chances, but just by having the ball and having the pressure and the field tilt on their side, had all of the fans and the momentum behind them. And that's what you have to try and avoid when you have 11 versus 10. Just keep the ball.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's my point. They tried to do that, but ultimately they weren't good enough. They were shit scared. Kirk has had the ball, and I don't know if it came out through the TV, but Gina will agree with me that we were shit scared to play the ball. There was a spare man on the right-hand side. We weren't good enough to, I think in the whole game, we probably created 3-4 attacks, Jake. 3-4 attacks. And the last one, which was the winner, was the one that I talked about, where you find the spare man, you find the gap, you accelerate play, and you create an overload, and you do them on whichever side you take the ball. You can't say the manager should be controlling the game. That's not exactly what Liverpool tried to do. But ultimately, they fell for one reason or another, mainly the pressure, mainly the manner of the first goal that we conceded. They weren't good enough to control the game. And to be honest with you, probably the two best players, apart from Virgil and Szoboszlai, were Curtis and Gravenberch. So
this is what you're telling me. This is what you're telling me. Every opponent that we face, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what the venue is, every single opponent that we face, we are never good enough to control the game. We're never good enough to control the game. Doesn't matter who it is. 2-up at home against Bournemouth, we couldn't control the game. Why?
There is a difference between sitting off and a difference between not being able to control a game.
Of course there's a difference. And what I'm telling you is...
we tried to control the game, but we weren't good enough. And you have to give credit to Eddie Howe for that.
No, but if it happens in every game, then it's not that you're not good enough. That's what the strategy is. You can't tell me Liverpool's players are not better than Bournemouth, are not better than Wolves, are not better than Leeds or all these other bottom of the table teams that we face.
Yeah.
I can understand it against a Newcastle away. I can understand it against an Arsenal. I can understand it maybe against even a Manchester United away. But when you're playing Wolves at home, up 2-0 in the second half of last season, and the last 50 minutes of that game,
Wolves were completely different.
10 shots to nil. It's not.
Wolves, you can agree. I agree with you that we sat off. And I can remember having those conversations with you saying, look, sometimes it's mental fatigue, sometimes it's fatigue. At the period that we were playing, we had a lot of intense matches. I think it was Everton, Newcastle, PSG, 2 legs, the final against Newcastle in Wembley. And I said, you can't go gung-ho all the time, even though the manager is not a Jurgen Klopp. There are a lot of similarities. You can't take a lot of the transition qualities out of this team. Well, yesterday wasn't Liverpool just getting the second goal and sitting off, because for 5 minutes, and you watch that game back, I just said to you 10 minutes ago, Jake, that Liverpool did exactly what they needed to do against 10 men. Control the game, move the ball, and pass it around and find the spare man. It was that moment the game changed then.
So that means they are capable of doing it. So once the game flips and then you're no longer capable of doing it for another 40 minutes in a row, it doesn't mean the players can't do it. That's a tactical strategy by the manager.
Momentum. You have to bring momentum into the game. Then you can't just totally rule out momentum in a game.
Goals do change games, though, don't they? They do change the rhythm of a game. Like the fact that they got that goal back, their tails were up then, weren't they? And the crowd was up again. So that, the mistake that Kirk has made and that goal that we give them away, it gave them a ray of light. It gave them something to go for, something to hold on to. If it had gone the other way and we'd have just put another move together and made it 3-0, might have ended up being 6 or something ridiculous like that. I think sometimes you can't really plot the momentum of a game, and you just have to accept it and deal with it for its merits. Like, don't get me wrong, I wish we could control that game in a great way, in a way that champions should control it. But the reality is, we are still very young in our journey with this team. It's only Kirker's second game. He's a very, very good player, and we saw it last season at Bournemouth. But he's moved to a huge club, and it's a big adjustment period for him. Even Florian Wirtz, who we all know is going to be world class, hasn't really had a foothold in a game yet. 2 very intense, difficult games. He hasn't really made a big impact.
Once the game goes 2-2, hold on one second. Once the game goes 2-2, Newcastle had probably about 6 or 7 minutes where they're on the front foot. Grand, I'll give them that. But immediately, once we actually get the ball, the game slows down a little bit. Now, all of a sudden, we can play football. We couldn't play football for the last 65 minutes prior to that at all. But all of a sudden, it's 2-2. The state of the game changes. We have to score. And now we decide we know how to play football. No, it's tactics.
One thing that I do want to say, and in terms of what Jake, I sort of agree with Jake. And this is Jake. We know, Ben, goals change games. Newcastle got that goal. Okay, fair play. They got that goal. They made it 2-1, right? We still couldn't get a foothold of the game, and they're down to 10 men. That for me, and this is the thing that worried me more than anything in that game was we got outplayed to an extent. I don't want to use the word outplayed. Maybe that's harsh.
We were absolutely outplayed from.
Okay, you can say that from the start. Yeah, half 20 minutes. I get that. When the opposition is down to 10, they get that goal. Okay, you scored. It's 2-1. They get the goal against the runner play. It was a shit defending from Kirk as the They got that goal. But after that, we didn't control the game at all, barring what Jake's saying. 4 or 5 minutes at the end.
Jake,
Asim, are we saying that's on the players?
So why is that then, in your opinion?
So Jake is saying that's a tactical thing.
You have to give credit to Eddie Howe.
We give him credit. Asim, we said to still be able to play.
He was very brave, wasn't he? With that 4-3-2.
He played 2 up top. He went for us. But we're Liverpool Football Club. We're not La Tupa 2. We're a proper football club, one of the best in the world, that playing against a team down to 10 men. We're winning 2-0, and we allowed the opposition to get back into the game. They score 1. You expect at least us to still then, okay, it's 2-1. Let's start playing.
But we're nowhere near our best at the moment, are we? We're nowhere near our best.
The reason why I disagree with you, Jake, to say it's on the manager. If he said to Dominic Szoboszlai, like, we've got a spare man, let's put cautious. Have a cautious approach, stay in your right back position, be conservative, let's build up in a 4. You watch that game, the moment they had 10 men, Dominic Szoboszlai was playing in midfield. He was playing in midfield a lot, even when they had 11 men, because we wanted him to control proceedings and have Livramento to come into a central space so that we've got a 3v3. And that's one of the reasons why we were going to Cody Gakpo as well, because it was 3v3 at the back. But after the sending off, Jake, we just couldn't find the spare man. And I blame it on that goal. Yeah, you have to say it was a bit of momentum. It was a bit of mental, not fatigue, but we didn't have the mentality just to do our business. But sometimes you get involved in a crowd, in an atmosphere that sometimes you just cannot get. How we've blitzed many teams, even with 10 men, even with 11 men, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona. You can call all the Anfield nights back on how we've absolutely destroyed teams. But that is we have to put a bit of context to the fact that is a hard ground. And Ben, I agree with you, it's probably the hardest away ground to go in terms of physicality. And we played the 2 most physical teams in Bournemouth and Newcastle. But I don't agree with you for the fact that you say his tactics is structural. Because if Dominic Szoboszlai was in a really defensive position and we were sitting on the lead, then I'd say, you know what, we invited all the pressure. We didn't invite the pressure. We just weren't good enough to play out of it, whether it was 11 men or 10 men. That's why I disagree with you.
If this game was a one-off scenario, okay, I would admit it. The problem that I have is once we have a lead, and I've told you this, the weakness in this side, because of the way that the manager operates, is from minute 60 to 90. And apparently it doesn't matter whether the opposition has 11 men or 10 men. But that's where the weakness in this side is, because that's when the manager says, let me sit back, let me defend this lead, and let me try and squeeze a win out of whatever the scenario is. If that was a one-off scenario against Newcastle, I would agree with you. I would say it's on the players, it's on the environment, it's on the opposition. Credit to Howe, credit to their fans. They were on the front foot, whatever. But it's every single opponent that we face. It's every single one. So you can't tell me that we're not capable of playing football around anybody. There's no opposition that we can play football through, because that's the way that
isn't it a worry, guys, that we go 2-0 up and against Bournemouth and Newcastle, a team that's down to 10 men over the first two games. And look, I get it, it's the start of the season, some new players, and to concede 2 when you're 2-0 up, that might be a tactical thing. Or are we just saying who are we blaming here?
What do you say?
Asim, so who? Right, 2 games in the Premier League this season. We've been up 2-0 in both of them. Right, one was at home, one was away. I get it, Newcastle, but they were down to 10 men. What Jake's trying to say here is 2 games, both winning 2-0. Pegged back twice to 2-2. Right. That's a problem. That's a
no. Because Jake is telling me no. No. The reason why it backs up my point is if Jake is telling me we're using a cautious approach. Forget Newcastle for a second. Let's go to the Bournemouth game. At 2-1, Gene, all the talk is Liverpool at 2 gung ho. We've got our number 6, our 2 number 8s in the box. It's a structural problem. We're too attacking. So you can't have it one way where you say we conceded a lead against Bournemouth and they pegged us back to 2-2. Because look at the way they pegged us back. They didn't peg us back by us using the cautious approach that Jake is saying. They got the ball.
Okay, fine. That's a fair point. Wait, 1 second, Jake, 1 second. So the first game, you're blaming the manager for going too gung ho, right? So it's a tactical thing. So the second game, you're blaming the manager because he's changed it and he's gone back to reverted back to trying to control the game. So is it a tactical thing or not? Is it on the manager then?
Is that to me or Jake?
Well, any of yous, because you're saying, okay, I get it. You know what? Is it on the manager that he's where we first were too gung ho, then we're not too gung ho? Because that's the manager's tactics, then, isn't it?
The first one, you can put it on the manager.
Okay, TK.
You can put it on the manager because at the end of the day, it's his job from the line, in my opinion, to tell Hendo, you stay disciplined. But you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. And that's why we looked a lot better side and a lot more disciplined side, even such a great transition team like Newcastle, Gene, that we didn't look really open yesterday. And maybe that was because of the nature of the game, because we were so pinned in, dealing with bloody free kick after free kick, throwing after throwing. We didn't face a lot. But one of the reasons why we didn't look open in some of the moments of the game where it was stretched is because the discipline nature of how Ryan Gravenberch has been learning that role over the last 12 months. Yes, he's still not natural, but he's a lot more natural than McAllister, and he's a lot more natural than Dominic Szoboszlai. So he has provided us the protection. But you still can say, okay, I've mentioned the absence of Gravenberch was a factor last week, and the manager protected and backed himself up, defended himself on that. But you still can say, look, it's your job. It's your troops out there. If you need your left back to sit on the halfway line, you tell your left back to sit on the halfway line. But for me, yesterday, Liverpool literally didn't get the ball and say, we're going to defend. For the 5 minutes after the second goal, after Ekitike scored, we had the ball. And exactly what Jake is saying we should be doing, we were doing.
So then what happened? So then why did we stop?
Because it was bloody the moment we changed the whole momentum of the game was you can't blame the Milos Kerkez moment on something structural.
One goal. Okay, one goal. Listen,
come on.
One goal.
You're telling me one moment can't change the game.
But you're playing against 10 men.
Exactly.
Yeah, because then we didn't have the ball then, Gene. You were there. I was
I get it. I gave Kirk a shit. I said, what did I say to you? There was times when he didn't have the ball at times.
I think that's where you should probably give Eddie Howe a bit of credit, because I think he almost negated the 10 against 11 by virtue of the fact that he spent most of the second half pumping balls into the box. So there was no football getting played on the deck.
I don't care who the opposition is. You ain't good enough then, period. End of discussion. And I refuse to admit that that's the situation with this team. It's not.
I don't understand what you're saying there.
I missed that. Sorry, Jake.
You're telling me we're not good enough to play against 10 men against Newcastle. That's what you're telling me. We weren't good enough to play against 10 men. I won't accept that. That's not true.
But what is it then? You're not blaming the players.
I'm blaming the manager.
Okay.
And I'm not blaming the manager per se. We won the game. We got 3 points. I don't want this to turn into a negative show. But all that I'm saying is, in these situations when we're getting pinned in deep by the opposition, doesn't matter who the opposition is, it's intentional from the manager. Because you can't convince me that we don't play that way when it's 0-0. We don't play that way when it's 1-0. We don't play that way when it's 2-0 for the first 5 minutes. But then all of a sudden, for the next 40 minutes, it just happens to happen. But then when it's 2-2, we can just flip it on and say, okay, we want to start playing football again and win the match.
Jake, there was no difference to how we wanted to play and how we were playing at 0-0, at 1-0, at 2-0, at 2-1, and at 2-2. You tell me how the manager changed things from 1-0 and 2-2. You give me one thing and I'll hold my hands up. Give me one thing.
I got to watch the game again. You watched
the
game
here we go. Did you watch it last night?
I didn't watch the game a second time. I watched it once.
There we go. There we go. All right, you know what? Watch it. Come back to me. Give me one thing. Show me one thing that the manager, and write it to me in text, and that the manager did structurally that you think it was a conservative measure. It was a proper difference between the first minute and the 90th minute. I'll hold my hands up. You can't come on here and blame the manager and then tell me you can't tell me one thing that the manager did differently.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you exactly what he did it differently. He's sitting back and defending.
I do get it that he's saying it looks as if we were just sat back. But again, I'll say it again. The ball was in play for 40 minutes in the game. It was like a freaking game of rugby. That second half, it was just play to the channels, play into it. We got sucked into it. It was just win the second ball, long throw in, whatever you want to call it. We probably should have been smarter. But I've said again all along, we're nowhere near our level yet. We didn't have our first choice midfield in midfield. We weren't at that point in the season. Given all the situations, we weren't good enough to be able to do that. If we were in complete rhythm, playing out of our skin, with everybody on form, then we would have ripped them to pieces in the second half. But we didn't because we're not there yet. We're not there yet. People like Kerkez are still getting used to playing for a huge club. People like Szoboszlai were out of position playing his first game at right back. You've got to caveat all of the situation within the game and say, we're not just going to rock up to St. James's Park in that situation and go, well, we're champions, so we'll just play it off the park. They're a good side. And Eddie Howe played the tactical game second half with a really aggressive formation with 10 men, and he played the percentage balls, and he scored off 2 set pieces. And that's what it was. He didn't cut us open. They scored off a long punt because Kanate has forgotten how to head the ball, and because Kerkez decided that he was going to, have a rugby match with Bruno instead of actually jumping and challenge for the ball. They're simple things that could be got rid of. And I fully expect that Slot will work on them in the coming weeks. But what we should be focusing on, and I know we don't want to talk about the negatives too much, but that last goal when the real pressure was on and we had to put one move together, that was as good a goal as we scored under Slot for me.
Yeah, I agree.
That was it was a 6-person move, bang bang bang, and we were in.
It's been 44 minutes, and this will go down in history. That it's been 44 minutes and we've not talked about Alexander Isak But we will. Everyone wants to talk about Alexander Isak, but we've still got some individual performances to discuss. Some good, some bad. Some mentioned Ibu Kanate. I think we'll start with Dominic Szoboszlai. I thought he was just unbelievable last night.
Different
Recovering,
level.
the level of energy, the slowing down of attacks, the control when he came into midfield, is some passing as well. And his positioning sometimes on the back post, where it's sometimes for a fullback, whether it's on that side or when the ball goes across, it's the acid test for a fullback in terms of positioning when the attacker is on your shoulder. And I thought him, even I think he was headed out once for a corner, I think it was, with Anthony Gordon waiting to pounce. But
yeah,
I thought he was nothing short of brilliant yesterday.
He was different level to play in that right back position. The way he played it, especially in that first half, he didn't let Harvey Barnes move. But at times when we looked at him, I was thinking, stand him. The way he stood him up, he didn't let him go on the outside or on the inside, and he defended really well. He obviously invert at times and get involved with the play as well. Brilliant performance, man. And there's a reason why for Dominic Szoboszlai has such a massive cult following of Liverpool fans who will back him, me being one of them, because without him, this team struggles. And if I'm honest with you, Asim, if we didn't have him at right back tomorrow, even if we had our first choice right backs, they could not have done what Dominic Szoboszlai offered us yesterday. He was for me the man of the match by a country mile. Yes, I understand Virgil van Dijk was class, but for the guy that's played right back in a game away to Newcastle, the way he played it with the pace of Newcastle and their midfield, I thought he was sensational, man. And then to top it off, that dummy for the goal, man. Oh yeah, cost me that. I was shouting, leave it. And when he left it for Rio to score, look, we all know he's a brilliant footballer. We just needed to see more of it. Needed him to actually get a hold of the game because he has the energy. He's got the class. He's actually even got the passing. He's got the ability to do everything. I know his passing let us down at times last season. He even let us down in the first game where he misplaced a pass, which led to one of their goals. But honestly, a monumental performance from him, and I love the kid. I want Dominic Szoboszlai in that in this Liverpool team, regardless of who we play. He has to be on that pitch, whether it's in a 10, 8, 6 right back. You need this team needs Dominic Szoboszlai on this pitch.
We said, didn't we, pre-season that Szoboszlai possibly doesn't get into Liverpool's starting 11 if we have everybody, and yet he'll probably end up playing more than everybody because he's so versatile and he'll play in so many different positions. But it'd be dead interesting, just back at you there, Gene, for a sec. If McAllister had been fit last night, where would Szoboszlai have played?
You know me. You ask Asim. In my starting 11, I had him on the left wing. If Gomez or Bradley were going to start, there was no way I was not having Dominic Szoboszlai on that pitch yesterday. Not a chance. He has to start. These games, you need Dominic Szoboszlai on that pitch. Look at Man City away last season. There's certain games where Dominic Szoboszlai turns up, and it's these type of games that he's turned up. There's a comment saying wanting him dropped. I've never wanted Dominic Szoboszlai dropped, by the way. So
there was a show 3 months ago for 30 seconds. You said you wanted them dropped. Honestly, you can't say nothing on any show, can you? Because someone will remember one comment that you made.
I know, mate. I'm with you, mate. I love that kid.
I'd have him every game. I think his legs are just they're just born for the Premier League, aren't they? You need that running power all day long. But I tell you what, it will be really interesting if McAllister is fit on Sunday, because you think to yourself, where does he play then? Because you've got to find a place for him, because he was brilliant. He was brilliant. And if Bradley's fit to start on Sunday, which is a possibility, I thought Bradley looked okay when he came on, to be honest. But we don't know how long he's got.
Jake, just with that, sticking with that question that Ben has spoke about, if everyone's fit, McAllister comes back into the team because you think the manager really likes him. I'm sticking with Szoboszlai right back then. Agree?
That's what I said in preseason. This is exactly what I said in that show that Ben is referencing. when we talked about dropping him from the team, but he's still going to get, more minutes than everybody because he's so versatile and can play in so many different positions. You guys said, where are you going to play him? And I said, I play him at right back. And I don't want to make this sound as if I'm hating on his performance. He was my man of the match. Let me make that clear right now. But the issues that we had in buildup were because of the lack of width that we had on our fullbacks. He's naturally going to feel more comfortable inside. And that's where you saw him playing yesterday. A little bit more inverted, maybe not necessarily all the way in midfield, but he wasn't holding the width all the way out wide and playing high and wide. And the same thing was happening with Kirkez. And when you had Joe Linton, Tonali, and Bruno playing as a flat three, they're dominating the middle of the pitch. And we had nothing to offer out wide. We couldn't progress centrally. We weren't progressing anything out wide. As you mentioned, the entire strategy early in the game was to play long to Gakpo. So he brings so much to the table, and I still start him at right back because he's so much better than anybody else that we have in that position. When Bradley came on, obviously he hasn't played in quite some time. I thought he was terrible. Frimpong obviously is a completely different type of player, but when you're talking about playing out the back, building up, when you have Sobo there at right back, and especially the way that we're utilizing Kirkez right now, there are some deficiencies in our buildup. But from a off the ball scenario, he's absolutely fantastic. Positional sense that you mentioned, he was where he needed to be every single time. He's physical. He has the running power. He's not going to get bullied like we saw Kirkez get bullied on the Bruno goal. Those types of things don't happen to him. His one-on-one defending out wide against Barnes was spectacular. From a defensive perspective, even though he rarely plays his position, he was incredible. And that's where I want to see him playing if we can't get him onto the pitch in midfield because we're playing Florian, McAllister, and Grab. I'm okay with that. But like Gene said, you have to find a place for him to play. And for me, it's at right back, even though, as I mentioned, there are deficiencies on the ball, not necessarily with him individually, but collectively in the buildup because of the lack of width that we have with our fullbacks, with the way that we're utilizing them. I think we can utilize them differently, but it is a problem. At least it was yesterday.
But I think that was instructional, Jake.
It probably was instructional. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but it played into how Eddie Howe played his midfield, and he completely took away the center progression. The ball to grab was eliminated. Florian coming into the center, the option wasn't there for him to get the ball. So we had to play out wide. We couldn't play out wide because neither of our fullbacks were options out wide. They were both playing too narrow. So the only option we had was to play long. This is early in the game when we couldn't utilize the build-up.
Yeah, I think it was deliberate. Sobo coming into midfield. Why? Because you want to control a bit more solidity on and off the ball. If you lose it, you've got him to counter press from that position. You've got his tenacity in midfield. But also what I touched on.
It wasn't deliberate, but it didn't work. You weren't able to build up. The build-up was nullified entirely by Newcastle's midfield.
But what I would say is what we were discussing earlier. The fact that he came into midfield and they went to man-to-man press where Livramento came right, I was watching the game earlier, right into the edge of our box, and it allowed Salah to come deeper and stretch Dan Burn. But we probably worked it out which is the side that we can win the battle with that long ball. It's not Salah versus Dan Burn. On many occasions it is, because Salah is big enough, strong enough with his low center of gravity and his big shoulders to put his ass into players and hold the ball up. Very Sadio Mane like, but one of the, especially when you're such an aggressive press and such a physical team where you got your forwards, your attackers and defenders like Newcastle's, one of the most common approaches to deal with the bypass. If you're not good enough to play, and you haven't got players like Vitinha and João Neves and Fabian Ruiz in midfield, then what you do is you go long. So I think it was a deliberate tactic for us to attract Livramento into the space that we wanted to come, to provide a bit more space for our attackers. And although it's not aesthetically pleasing, but it is very, very, it's a simple tactic, but it's very effective tactic.
But it wasn't effective. It didn't work.
if you watch apart from the couple of moves in the first half or second half, we probably had 3 attacks where it was complete textbook. Play through midfield and go out to Salah, and then you got runners going off on him. Apart from that, Jake, it was the battle between Cody Gakpo and Trippier, where he either won a flick or he won a throwing, and he got us up the pitch. That was our attack. So
and it worked.
It wasn't very pleasing, but it was the most effective.
It was not that effective. It worked a couple of times, and then after that, it stopped working.
Yeah, because we weren't very good at it in terms of overall playing.
No,
it was still our most effective tactic.
I'm not saying it wasn't our most effective tactic, but it wasn't effective enough.
But it was still the most effective tactic in the first half.
It was because we couldn't play through them. That's my point.
Exactly. So that's probably because of the lack of ability that Cody Gakpo has. For me, I get frustrated when I see a 6-foot guy, a 4 guy up against a Trippier, a right back in Trippier. I want him to win more battles, but he still won his fair share.
I think you got to play these fullbacks a little bit wider, not be so narrow in the back line. And if they're gonna completely take away all central progression, which is what they did, they overloaded that midfield. Then you got to be able to play out wide. You can't just play this long ball to Cody Gakpo, who half the time doesn't even want to win an aerial duel. So I'm not gonna. I agree with you that it was effective at times. It was. He won fouls against Trippier. He won little flick-ons. Was able to win the ball on occasion, but it wasn't effective enough for that to be your main strategy.
Yeah, I don't think it's a long-term plan, though, is it? I think it was just a scenario that we probably just employed as best as we could for this game. Because, as I keep saying, we are still undercooked. We're not at full rhythm. We're not at full speed. We haven't got those connections and that chemistry between the new players. We're still trying to find the right role for Vert at the moment. It's a totally different setup. That the whole game is designed around him, but we are nowhere near our best yet. So it's almost like we've said it away. It's about finding a way through in these early games and just getting the points on the board. If you look at the league, I was going to say this before. We're only one of 3 teams now that have got maximum points. So 2 games in and only 3 teams have got maximum points. That shows you how difficult this league is to win games. And we've played Bournemouth at home, who recorded the highest running stats in the first weekend of the Premier League. Super, super fit team. And then we go to the Lions Den away to Newcastle. So they're not like, we haven't played like Wolves at home and West Ham away. We've played really difficult games and we got 6 points. So we can pick the bones out of the performance all day long, but at the end of the day, I don't give a shit at this moment in time. I just want the points on the board, and the performances will follow. I tell you what, I don't want to be playing absolutely brilliant and not winning, because then we've got a problem. We're nowhere near. We think of PSG last year. They were absolute bag of rags in the first couple of months of the season. They were all over the place. Got beat by Arsenal in the group stages, etc., etc. But the quality of a team builds throughout the season. The chemistry, the fluidity, the shape, the form, the positional play. It all comes over time. And a back slot, get it right. We just got to get results early doors.
100%. Let's go through the super chat before we go on to the match winner selection. As ever, supporting the channel, thank you so much. He says Curtis Jones' tendency recycling passes, not really progressive, but accumulating touches, not progressive, I think he means. Or is that a word? I don't even know.
Don't say that after the few times.
Helped us massively without taking the sting out of the game in stages, in my opinion. Best midfielder for us, in my opinion. Yeah, he was getting a bit of stick, but I thought Curtis Jones had a decent game. If you want to control the crowd, you sometimes have to control the game and control possession. And Curtis Jones, although he does have his weaknesses in sometimes hogging the ball, but I think the manager made the right decision in making Curtis Jones, who's more conservative and it's all about recycling play, like selection says, and played Sobo at right back. Rehan always supporting the channel. He only deals with £20 super chats. Thank you so much, Rehan. He says, I have sympathy for the team. Impossible to gain control in that environment in that first half. Looked comfortable at 2-0 until Moreno bottled it and Newcastle gained momentum. Who's Moreno? Oh, Milos.
He's doing a compare and contrast. Someone else said that last night.
I wanted to fight
I don't think he's quite that.
And Kanate. Look, I was saying this. Sometimes you can't underestimate the fact that the momentum. Jake disagrees, but I think we've spent too much time on that
I don't
earlier.
disagree on that point entirely, but continue.
Okay, Nimrod Hurwitz, thank you so much. You guys are not hitting the spot. The real problem is that we are not good enough at positional game on the slot. That's why every game in the last 6 months has been a 50-50 game. Shit at positional play. I disagree with that. I think we have a decent, very good positional principles on the slot, and he's taken the Jurgen slot gegenpress into his game as well. Obviously, it is going to take time. When you talk about positional play, you need specialists. And 12 months ago, Ryan Gravenberg wasn't a specialist number 6. And in terms of positional play, if you want your ball to go through the center of the pitch, your DM, your number 6 is probably arguably the most important player. And I think Liverpool have put a really good blend into Slot's own version of positional play with just enough amount of fluidity. Some would say.
By the way, McAllister and Gravenberg haven't been in the same team since Spurs as well. So that's a thing. You need your best players.
100%.
Sorry, Asim, I think you might have missed one, mate. Voice of Reason. Below selection.
I did. Voice of Reason, thank you so much for your super chat, mate. When Isak signs, we can't bench Hugo. He's him. So good problem to have. Voice of Reason. Thank you so much for your super chat. Alex is in the building as ever supporting. We had +2 points on the same fixtures last season. I think that's the exact type of super chat this negative podcast deserves tonight. Rakeen Dharma 6141. Is there any element of poor squad building? We should not have to play naturally attacking players in conservative roles in game 2 of the season. Players are reverting to type but are disjointed. I think it's a bit of bad luck as well. We've got 2 right backs at the club, both injured, and you can't say, although we can say, look, we should have, and this is the reason why we bought Frimpong. There were talks about or rumors about Liverpool are accepting or going to go with someone like Gomez and Bradley at right back. We have to give credit to the manager and the club that they bought Frimpong into the club, who had a very good injury record, but he's got an injury. So, yeah, at the moment, in terms of the attack, I would say they've got 6 days to sort it out. They've sorted out the defense, hopefully, with the acquisition of Leone, and I think Gehi is going to come into the club. But let's make that judgment in 6 days and let's see where they're at. Selection with the second super chat of the night. Thank you so much, mate. Very kind of you. The long balls into Gakpo literally instigated the opportunity for the second goal in the first half. Gakpo carry pass into Salah, who put Jones in. Jake, I don't want to reiterate the point, but I thought, look, it's aesthetically, or the optics of it is not pleasing. I thought it was I want Liverpool to play through the press more. I want them to be brave. Don't get me wrong, but it is a very, very simple attack. If a team is really aggressive, you go along, you win the duel, and you turn around teams because you've got a 3v3 or 4v4. But again, we've discussed it at length. There's no point, reiterating the same argument. But thank you so much for selection. Very kind of you, mate. I'm just going to quickly go check. No, that's all the super chats done. There's still 1,100 people in the chat. Keep smashing the like button. Keep subscribing to the channel and all that good stuff. Who deserves to go for Rio today? Jake.
I vote Jake.
Well, Jake, me and you have argued enough. It's time for me to come to you and give you the first opportunity to go and heap praise on our new superstar.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? If I'm being quite honest with you, I mentioned this to Cheen backstage right before the show when the ball fell to him in the split second that I see him getting ready to take this shot. I swear I'm thinking he's not putting this away. I was like, this kid's not ready for this moment. And when that ball hit the back of the net, my reaction, much like everybody else's, was pure joy, elation, and I celebrated as loud as I ever have, as if I was at St. James's Park. So credit to that kid for being able to take that chance and put it away. I mean, how many times do we see far more experienced players not put that chance away? So for a kid, 16 years old, in that situation, to score his first goal in that moment in an away match with all of the pre-match build-up, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, coming into the season, I said for people to kind of temper their expectations with this kid, because I don't think, and I mentioned this on one of our shows, I don't think he's going to get the amount of minutes necessary to meet some of the expectations that some of the fans have for this kid. But if he continues to take his chances like he did last night, it's only going to give the manager and himself more and more confidence and give him more and more minutes for him to prove himself. Right now, a big question mark that we have in this team is the depth in attack and whether we can rely on some of these players, whether it's Chiesa, whether it's Rio, and we have nobody else after that. So for Chiesa to score the winner last week and for Rio to score the winner last night, the manager just continues to pull the right strings. You talked about not long ago your concern of not having the depth in attack that we had last season, and whether we were going to be able to rely on the depth that we have now to get these points late in matches. And right now we're 2 for 2 in those scenarios. So I'd be lying to you if I told you I expected the depth in our attack to come through the way that it has these last 2 matches. But credit to this kid, man. This kid looks like he's a superstar in the making. So let's see what he can do moving forward.
Ben, a lot of senior players, even at the peak of their career, would have put that finish in Rose Z, because that was probably, it was, I don't know, I don't want to call it like a 1 out of 10. It wasn't 1 out of 10 finish, but you know what I mean, where he was wrong footing.
1 in 10 finish.
Was it 1 in 10? Maybe a 3 in 10.
Maybe more. Maybe given the scenario, it was like something that you'd expect 1 in maybe 20 to finish, because he could have connected with it well, but the keeper could have saved it. But he made it unsavable with what he did.
That's what my point.
And that's what the class bit is. Really, you just want them to make a good connection, and if it went in, brilliant. But he made it unsavable. Literally, like Pope doesn't move. He does not move, and he's like 10 yards out. Like, I watched it 6,428 times. And one of the last times I watched it, you watch the ball go along the ground and it bobbles a few times. Like St. James's pitch is obviously a class pitch, but it bobbles a few times, and he still sits on it when he connects, and that connection is genius. Fair play, it's absolute genius for him to do that under that pressure at that age. It's a bit of a, you don't want to put too much pressure on him, but it's a Rooney style moment for when he scores against Arsenal, isn't it? It's that sort of style, and I don't for one second think he'll go on to have a career like Rooney, but it is a moment where you think he's not like thinking, oh, I'm just going to be back in the 21s or be playing a couple of minutes in the Carabao Cup. I do want us to keep balance. Like, I am very excited about him. He looks amazing. I do want us to keep balance. I don't want any fool on here saying now that we're starting him in the next 3 Champions League games and then we're banking on him to win his points, because there's no world-class football team that should be relying on a child to win his games. That's just
Ben, I like the way you're calling for balance, and then sort of comparing him to Wayne Rooney as well.
I know, exactly. Yeah, that is where the get carried away can be the case, couldn't it?
Why not? Why not?
There's the chat there saying Ben Woodburn scored at 17, so keep us some perspective. I remember when I went on that run in the derby, and everyone's like, "Oh my word, it's the second coming of Pele." You know what I mean? So it's like people all need to just calm down. But he does look exciting. There's no doubt about it. And if he's part of the squad this season and he comes off the bench and he does that a handful of times, if he does that 5 times in the season, that would be amazing. And if he starts a few games, etc., brilliant. I just don't want us to have to at any point become overly reliant upon him, because I just don't think that's fair. And I don't think we will either. I think the coaching staff will be really level-headed, and they won't think now, oh, he's starting against Arsenal and he's going to, rip it up. He might start the odd game, but I just don't want us to build any sort of expectation around him, because that's what can kill youngsters.
Gene, I've been running around the house and even at work today trying to do the Sabos-slide dummy.
What a dummy, man. What a dummy. And I was just screaming, leave it. And Jake, I'll be honest, when that ball fell to Rio, I knew he's putting it away. I just had this. As soon as I was shouting, leave it, leave it. And as soon as he left it, I knew he's scoring. You
see Harvey celebrated before he went in.
Because because the way he hit it, he had hit that ball perfect. That is perfectly placed, and in the amount of whip and watching that flipping goalkeeper just stood there and hit that ball, hit the back of the net. It was some let off, and it's one that I won't forget. But what a brilliant young footballer we have, and I loved his interview as well. He was very level-headed. The way he spoke, he knows what he's
really good.
Exactly, and I really like that about him. And look, he's got the right people, the right players. And Ben, I think we will rely on him a few times this season to bail us out. I just get this feeling he will come on more than you guys think. If we don't bring a left winger in, he will be relied upon.
Yeah,
I think they're going to give him a few more chances. They're going to maybe 15, 20 towards the end of a game, because he's the only winger. If we buy Alexander Isak and we don't bring in another forward, he is our only winger that has got pace, trickery, can go inside, outside.
Yeah.
And it's crazy me saying this. He's only a 17-year-old kid, but that's the truth. He's the only winger that can give us that unpredictability, and I think we're gonna rely on it a couple. I hope we don't as much, but the way it's going and the way we're playing right now, I think we're gonna rely on him a bit more than normal if we had a Diaz or somebody else. But what a finish, man, and what a dummy, man. Dominic Szoboszlai, mate, he took piss yesterday.
Maybe I shouldn't be nervous. Maybe I shouldn't be like, maybe I should just go, what the hell? Who cares about his age? Just let him run, and go for it. I suppose you just like the nervous side of you thinks, I don't want people to start getting on his back and stuff like that when he's playing games and it's not doing it for him. Everyone has to remember how old he is and stuff. Or at the same, how many times you've got you flipping Yamal ripping it up at that age. He's a bit of a poster boy, isn't he? You've had Michael Owen break onto the scene for us years ago. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and all those caveats. So Trent broke into the team, didn't he, when he was young? So maybe it is just a case of we saw Sterling, didn't we, obviously break into the team when he was that age, and maybe it is just a situation where if we had a seasoned pro left winger in addition to Gakpo, then he probably wouldn't get a chance. But maybe it's just one of those situations where the route through is going to open up quicker than anticipated, and you take your chance when it comes, and you never know, he might just explode. So long may it continue.
Yeah, 100%. I'd start him at right back so you can take everyone from there. But Jake, I wanna talk about the captain. I think that was an outstanding performance. I tweeted straight after the game, Jake, that if he wasn't playing and if he wasn't the best defender ever that I've seen in my lifetime, we would have lost that game 10-3. Every single header he seemed to win. I think I read something that he won 14 out of 14 in the air. I might be wrong. I'm sure I read it last night. I wasn't under the influence of alcohol, but it was excitement and happiness. And that's a drug as well when you're in cloud nine and you won the game in 10th minute or something. It was. Tell me and talk to me about the great man, because he was nothing but great last night.
Yeah, this is the argument that you and I have. You're getting a 9 out of 10 performance from Virgil every time he steps foot on the pitch. And yesterday was a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 performance. He was absolutely fantastic. He was the only reason why we came out of this game with 3 points, because if he's not at his absolute best yesterday, we're losing that match, even with Newcastle having 10 players for the majority of the match. I've seen people online saying he's lost a step. He's not the same Virgil anymore. He's past his prime. He's washed up. This is a 34-year-old central defender, and he's playing best center back football in all of Europe right now. So it's amazing that this guy continues to play at the level that he's playing at. The club, for whatever reason, took a very, very long time to decide that they wanted to give this guy an extension of 2 years. He's proven right now that decision that they're making to wait to pay him was the wrong one. Now, they got the right decision made at the end of the day, but this club should have paid this man a year ago, a year prior to when he got that contract. We all knew it, and he's just proving it. So credit to him for continuing to be at his best at this age, because it's not normal for a 34-year-old center back to be the best in the world at that position. So he's our captain. He's our leader. He is the reason why we have 6 out of 6 points right now. And moving forward, if this team is going to accomplish anything close to what we think we're capable of accomplishing, it's going to be because he's leading us in that direction, on and off the pitch.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go over to the transfer talk. If you guys are telling me that you don't know that Newcastle have had their second bid for Strand Larsen rejected, then you're lying bastards. Because you've been checking your phones during the show, and that's what's happened, guys. £55 million, the second bid for the Wolves striker, has been rejected. Is this the move inevitable, Ben? Are we just going through the motions here, where Wolves just want a bit more money?
I think so, yeah. I think everyone knows what's going on. People think that because we haven't got Isak, then it's some sort of bargaining power for Newcastle, that when they do sell Isak, everyone will know that they're going to have £130 million extra burning a hole in the pocket. Well, guess what? People aren't stupid, and they already know, and that's why they're rinsing left, right, and centre. So I think it'll cost closer to 60 million for Strand Larsen, and it'll probably cost closer to 50 million for Visser if they still want him as well. Our lovely friend Luke Edwards has just tweeted telling everybody that we're have you noticed a pattern that's appearing here, where they're only bidding for one striker at a time? They're not bidding for two strikers at the same time. Blah, 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 blah. He's always got something to say, which is hilarious. But I think that in the end of the day, the big part of this is that regardless of who they do and don't get, the tea and biscuits at Isak's house in London yesterday didn't exactly go as they planned it, and they've now got a decision to make, that they've got £130 million asset on their hands that is basically going to just play Uno for the first 3 months of the season. He certainly isn't going to be coming back to training, and he certainly isn't going to be playing for Newcastle again. And they've got to come to, they've got to basically recognize that reality. And I think they've just got to get whatever they can and whoever they can in the remaining weeks of the window. You got to. It's going to go to the wire, I think, isn't it? Let's have it right. But the Reds haven't moved on. They haven't. There's been no briefs to say that we're not in for them no more. So we're just there. We're just sitting, and I think our bid is coming very, very soon. Probably, as Fabrizio said, maybe even late tonight, maybe even tomorrow. But it's coming, and they're going to have to make a decision. And I feel now it's gone from 2 strikers and a suitable amount, and then now some of the Northeast journalists are saying maybe 1 striker and a considerable amount. I think we're almost getting to a position where it's a case of just get the Isak deal done, and then you can do what you want with your money. In the last 4 days, you can get as many players as you can in whatever positions you can get them in. But we don't really give a monkeys, to be honest, as long as we get the toxic bad egg off your books, and we'll have them. Thanks very much.
Gene, do you think, I said earlier that if Newcastle bring in 1, and there's been talk about 2 strikers, I think Liverpool even bid where they see some encouragement, where it's only 1 striker. It doesn't have to be someone holding a black and white shirt. Where they just need to complete a few formalities. It's good enough for Liverpool to press the button. But then I went 1 step further. I think Liverpool will still bid, despite what journalists said, that they need some encouragement to place that formal approach. I think because Liverpool have put the eggs in one basket, in the Isak basket, that I think that option is not, it might not happen. It's just an opinion. I think Liverpool will still bid for Isak, but they might have to pay a bit more to convince Newcastle. Do you agree? Or do you think Liverpool haven't got encouragement?
I said the deal's going to be around 130 plus 10.
Your mic's a bit funny.
The deal's going to be again.
Yeah, you're in and out, mate.
Whilst you're sorting that out, Jake, you can take the question. Do you agree that Liverpool will come in regardless, or do you think it's what journalists have been telling us from day one, that if Liverpool don't receive any encouragement, they simply won't bid?
Listen, I said on this show probably about a month ago when everybody was talking about the Sesko deal being the make or break for this transfer. This was I don't want to say it was before, but the main talk at this time wasn't about Newcastle needing to get 2 strikers. I said even if Newcastle don't sign any striker, we're still going to sign Alexander Isak. And the point wasn't behind whether or not Newcastle signed their strikers or not. It was more about Newcastle's not going to be able to hold on to this player given how the situation is unfolding. It's just an untenable situation for them to keep the player regardless if they sign replacements or not. I don't think it's going to unravel that way in the scenario in which they don't sign anybody. So I don't think it's going to come down to that. But at the end of the day, as I've always said from the very beginning, and I've never wavered from my opinion, Alexander Isak is going to be a Liverpool player, and nothing has changed. If anything, my opinion has only become stronger with the way that he's handling and conducting himself, which I've said before has surprised me to an extent because I didn't expect him to be this so steadfast in the way that he's conducting himself. But at the end of the day, whether they sign Larson or they sign Nicholas Jackson or they sign Sorloth from Atletico Madrid or some other striker who we haven't even talked about, Dusan from Juventus. Who cares who the player is? I don't care if they sign 1 striker, 2 strikers, or 0 strikers. Alexander Isak is going to be a Liverpool player. The question is just when. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm getting a little bit agitated with the situation. I just want it to end, but I do want it to end with him being a Liverpool player, and I'm just waiting for that moment so I can celebrate. But the time is coming, and it's just a matter of time at this point. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Thursday or Friday or next Monday or the last minute of deadline day. I have no idea. But I told you guys from the beginning, it could go down to the wire. So the fact that it might go down to the wire doesn't surprise me. It shouldn't surprise anybody. It was never going to get done before yesterday's game. So we just have to wait.
Gene?
Yeah, look, I believe the deal will get done, or especially over the next 24, 48 hours. We will hear the news. In terms of the bid, I always said it was going to be 130 plus 10. That was the figure I think will make the deal happen. They're not going to accept anything less. I'll be very surprised if it is any less than that. Them obviously rejecting a bid of 55 million. I'm a bit baffled that they bid 55 because we were told it was 60 million, a day ago or 2 ago, I think it was. So to go in for 55 million just didn't make sense. I don't know why they're trying to lowball, but you need the forwards. They bring in their forwards. I think one forward, but they bring in one, meaning a bid is accepted. Liverpool will make them move for Alexander Isak, and I think inshallah the Friday we will hear some news regarding Alexander Isak and Liverpool before then, because that's the day that we like. And I think over the next 24 to 48 hours, we will hear more news about their first striker, and then Liverpool will make a proper move for Alexander Isak, unveiling him on Sunday before Arsenal, and the fans are going to be going loopy.
Ben, what's the fee going to be?
I think it's going to be a little bit less than what people are saying, to be honest. I think it's going to be 120 plus add-ons, because that feels as though what's been suggested all summer, because I think Liverpool are thinking to themselves, Isak's damaged goods from Newcastle's perspective, and they just need to get the maximum amount for him. I do think maybe there is a situation where Newcastle have got to save face, so it might be a case of it's recorded as maybe anything up to 140, but then there are add-ons that are like, Isak will become King of England or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel as though it might just be a case of it covers everybody's back. But yeah, I just want it done now. I want it done, but I want Mark Gay done as well after tomorrow, after Thursday's Champions League, Europa League qualifier, because I tell you now, I want him in the team at the moment because I'm worried about Canata. He's not playing well at all. He's struggling playing out from the back, and I just think, don't know, maybe his head's not right about the contract, or maybe he's just struggling with the fact that he hasn't got a ball player alongside him, and it's not working at the moment. So if we can get Gueye in quick, I think he'll be in the team sooner than people realise.
Wow, what is it today? Tuesday. Sorry,
what's
go
Tuesday, yeah.
What's the fee for Isak? What do you
fee for Isak?
For Asim, this is for Asim.
Oh, sorry.
The fee for Isak. What I said this afternoon is if they get a striker or two, I can see us getting 120 plus 10, 130. If they don't get a striker, we might have to press the button on around 140 plus 10. Because the deal has to be different then, Jake.
Yeah.
So will Liverpool go there? I think they'll have to.
They'll have to, yeah.
They'll have to.
They'll have to. Yeah.
They'll have to. So
that might be why they're holding off on Gueye as well, because they're thinking we've got to spend a few more quid on Isak. You know, and I know it sounds mad because we're thinking, well, we got loads of money, but still millions and millions of pounds, and there's still a specific budget probably being put in place for each player. So maybe they're thinking, well, if they can get Isak for what they wanted, then they can go and spend the 35, 40 to get Gueye. But then all of a sudden, if we have to push the button, like you say, and spend 150 nearly on Isak to, you know, to get the deal over the line, then it, you know, Gueye might be one where we say we'll have to pause on that one.
You know, yesterday, Jake, anyone could have got sent off. I was absolutely in euphoric when Anthony Gordon got sent off. Then I thought, for fuck's sake, their main strikers banned. And you can see the narrative. And Craig Hope straight away tweeted during the game that the striker that they've only got available playing down the middle is out for 3 games. And then tonight, Strand Larsen, they're bidding 55 million pounds for him. Bulls want around 60, 70 million. He scores a brace tonight. His value goes up. You know what? Yeah, I just hope all these little things are not bad omens for Liverpool to miss out on their striker, where every little thing that you need to go in your goes against us. But I'm sure money talks in the end, and you can see that Newcastle, and even I saw their owners' face, and I know they were losing the game, but it was a face of, there's a update from Craig Hope. The ball is now in Newcastle's court as to the next move. Keep Isak and hope he has a change of heart after September the 1st, or negotiate a British record deal with Liverpool. If the latter, they would need at least one striker, if not two, to arrive.
It's changed now from 2 to 1.
Yeah. To arrive in the coming days before Monday's deadline. Strand Larsen and Wissa have always been as replacements for Callum Wilson and not Isak. Well, Wissa's, not Wissa's, Callum Wilson's 3 shots on target. It needs a lot of replacing, and not Isak. But if both deals progressed at the same time, it would leave Newcastle with the decision to make as to how to proceed in the best interest of the club. There is a feeling among some close to the club that Isak's situation is beyond repair, and the sale is best for all.
First time one of the journalists, one of the real strong stalwart journalists, has showed a little crack in the armor. That's very encouraging. That well then, Craig, give us some hope instead of Craig no hope.
Is that the acceptance even from the most optimistic Newcastle journalists, Gene?
Yeah, definitely, man. I think that last sentence made complete sense. Makes complete sense. There's a feeling among some close to the club that Isak's situation is beyond repair, and a sale is best for all parties. Today's meeting or yesterday's meeting, whenever that meeting took place, and for Isak to turn around and say, "No, I still want to leave," I think that was the nail in the coffin, the final nail in the coffin.
Exactly. It felt like a last throw of the dice, didn't it?
It did. And that news coming out now, I think, look, they do want to bring their players in. They're going to try and bring in their players, hence why they're bidding today. The next day, they're trying to go and bid 60. They're going to have to go, obviously, 60 plus to try and land Larsen now. But It's just a matter of time. Jake said, you know, it will get done, whether it's today, tomorrow, or 3 days, 4 days. We don't really care. Just get that deal done ASAP.
And teams are putting the fees up for their players anyway, whether or not Isak goes or stays. It doesn't matter. You know, the chairmen of other clubs aren't stupid. They know full well that there's like, oh, we're keeping Isak and we just want this player as a backup. It's not that at all. Everyone knows it. These players, they're doubling the price in the space of a week because they know that they've got a massive windfall on the way, and they also know that by keeping Isak, it just doesn't make sense because you're saying, okay, we'll reintegrate him, but he doesn't want to be reintegrated. And the fact that Eddie Howe as well said at the post-match press conference, that was really telling amongst all the hurrah of the game. He said, I don't know whether it was his post-match or whether it was a comment after the game, but he said, no offense to Isak, but I only want committed players. I'm sure that was quoted, and that's what he actually said. But of course, it's no offense to Isak, but that's exactly who you're talking about. So it's like, he doesn't want players who aren't committed, and you could see by the Newcastle players, you know, all of the effort and the commitment that they're like, well, we all know he's going and he wants to go, so but we're all in this together, sort of thing. It was a bit of a siege mentality from the rest of the Newcastle dressing room because they probably know that he's moving on as well. So it's like, yeah, I just feel as though I think now that message there from Craig Hope, I think our bid comes tomorrow now. I really do. I think our bid comes tomorrow because what else are we waiting for now? There's nothing else to be waiting. You know, we don't need a little sly eye from Newcastle to say, go ahead, you can go for it. That we know they're actively trying to sign strikers. It doesn't really make any difference. And if anything, if you want to talk about a negotiation, then I'd rather start the negotiation 6 days before the window than 24 hours before the closes because, you know, there's going to have to be a little bit of a backwards and forwards. No, we won't accept that. And it might be the third or fourth bid that we get the agreements, which could be like literally the last day of the window. So let's get the ball rolling now. Sorry, Jake.
What I was going to say is, what I don't understand from you guys is every time a news story breaks out, every single one of you guys wants to say the next 24 to 48 hours is when something's going to happen. And it never happens. One day, you guys are going to learn that there's only one deadline. And that deadline is September 1st, when the window closes. So you guys continue to say, this is going to happen in 24 hours. This is going to happen in 48 hours.
But
you're like a sensible dad. You take all the fun away from us. Stop being so bloody sensible.
Jake, it's not just us. The great Fabrizio Romano. I said, conversations tonight or tomorrow.
Let us be unreasonable, pathetic children.
If Romano says it, then I will believe him. But when you guys say it,
Jake has already said it, man, tonight or tomorrow.
I know. He has said it. So when Romano says it, okay, it means something. But when you guys say it, it meems nothing.
Jake, don't you be messaging me tomorrow saying what's happening with Isak. Do not be messaging me tomorrow and ask me for an update.
The only thing I've always said was it doesn't matter when it happens. It just has to happen before the deadline. There's only one deadline, and that deadline is September 1st. I tell you right now, if it comes to the last day of August, the day before September 1st, the 31st of August, and we're still in this exact moment, I'm going to give you the same answer. It's still going to happen. It's going to happen tomorrow on the last day.
Jake's going to find out on MySpace.
Until the window closes and Isak is not here, the time is of plenty. That's what I want you guys to understand. There is no rush. There's a reason why the club is not pressing the situation. So there's no need for you guys to press the situation. When the club says we're moving on from this target, or we're not going to entertain him for the rest of this window, or we're going to put our bid in, and if it's not accepted, we're going to move on until the club does something for us to feel pressure. There is no pressure. They're operating right now.
Only a week ago, Jake, Arnie Slot came out only a week ago and said Liverpool are after at least one attacker.
Correct.
So why can't we get a bit gaslighted by that and excited?
I'm not telling you we're not going to get a striker. I'm telling you it doesn't have to be tomorrow.
I agree with that.
Jake, I want him in tomorrow.
It could be tomorrow. It could be tomorrow. That's
further, it could be. I'm not saying it's not tomorrow, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be tomorrow.
And if it's not tomorrow, I'll come on here tomorrow and say it could be tomorrow again.
Exactly. But what you guys are saying is the next 24 to 48 hours are critical because we don't have time in this window. If the club is not stressing over the situation, it's for a reason. It's because they know they're going to get this deal done and over the line one way or another before deadline day, whether that's tomorrow or the minute before the window closes. There's a reason why they're not pressing the panic button. There's no need for us to panic, is all that I'm saying.
I agree with that. Sabar karo, as the chip says. Hassan with a super chat. Thank you so much, Hassan. Always supporting the lads. He says, we are in the end game now. Newcastle journals have really shown how emotional they are throughout this saga. Isak will be a red and we will go for number 21. 100%. I always love Hassan's positive attitude.
He's very positive in the ultras as well. Good on him. I like that. Can't be doing with negativity. Stresses me out.
Third offer likely for Strand Larsen, according to Craig Hope. He's giving plenty of hope tonight. And the deal for Vista remains alive for Newcastle, reports Craig Hope. Rashid RBM with a super chat. Thank you so much. And with Asim, if they didn't get any replacements, we would try to go all in with 150 because it's clearly Isak or bust. Thank you so much, Rashid, for your super chat. I think that's everything, people. We've been live for 1 hour 35. It's probably about 35 minutes more than usual, but the game breakdown took a bit longer. And I think this is the natural conversation sometimes, even though a lot of people were saying in the chat, not a lot, but some of you guys were saying, look, we have to remain positive. We won the game 3-2. At the end of the day, we're a football channel. And if we see some deficiencies, we don't want to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, yeah, we've seen the deficiencies now from game week 5. We're here to provide something. If we see it early, and we pride ourselves to see something early and say, you know what, we told you 2 weeks ago, because we all know, the football really, really well. And if we see something early, we say, okay, keep an eye out on it, but it can be fixed. And we always say that. We always caveat any point with especially when it comes to tactics, because this manager has shown that he is tactically astute and he learns from mistakes. And like Ben said, we have not been our best, and our best players in Wirtz and Salah have not been at their best. But someone like Salah has already got a goal and assist, and he's not playing well. So it just shows you the level of Liverpool, and it shows you the level of Mohamed Salah. I think I missed a super chat. No, I didn't. Gene, do we need to add anything else? Jake, Ben?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay.
We sort of save a bit for this week because it's going to be a roller coaster week, because the next 24, 48 hours could be crucial.
Yes, man. I hope it happens tomorrow. I'm ready for it to happen tomorrow.
You know what, mate? For all of our sanity, I hope it happens sooner rather than later, because
we've got a Newcastle fan, Jody Howeman, 1677. Asim, he says, what was your experience of St. James's? It's always one of my favorite grounds to go, honestly.
My absolute favorite.
Jake wasn't with us this year. He normally is in the country every single year. And
I've never been to St. James's. I would love to go one year.
Oh.
Ben, we're taking you next year, because next year it's going to be 7-6 tours. Never mind 3-2.
Yes.
And you know what? You get good food. You see a lot of people every time. We have one place. I think it's called Pinar, wasn't it?
Yeah, Pinar, yeah.
Shout out to Pinar.
Fantastic. I love that place.
It's nice, isn't it?
I would have come, but I had a massive day at work on Tuesday, so I wouldn't have been able to get back in good time. Like, I can't imagine did you stay over, did you? Or did you come back that same night?
No, we got out. Yeah.
Did you get out?
A night out in Newcastle is where it's at. I haven't experienced that yet because you guys aren't the most party animals out there.
Gene's experienced plenty of night outs in Newcastle.
Listen, back in the bad old days.
Well, was that about 60
We'll definitely
years
get
ago?
to a few this year. Don't
That was about 3 months ago.
But so just to on that point, honestly, you have nice food and then you burn it off with those about 10,000 steps climbing up that way. But yeah, and you know what? On TV, that looks like it's up in the clouds, which you are, to an extent, but the view is unbelievable. Yesterday we were like in the freestanding space between the two tiers, and it was a really, really good view. You see the whole game. And you know what? The away end, the home end was unbelievable. At 2-2, the noise. Oh my God. It was crazy. I always say the loudest noise that I heard for one particular goal in the away end, when you're in the away end, and it was at Rangers when they scored that first goal, and then we scored about 1 million goals after that. But that noise for that first goal, Toba. But you know what? That was very, very close. That ground at 2-2 is very, very close. And the Geordies, you know what? Although you see a lot of stuff on social media, fans going at each other, and although 99.9% of it is really good banter, but you know, when you go to grounds, you see proper people, you meet people, and they are so, so nice. And they were very, very not apologetic, but very respectful. Mentioned Diogo Jota, and they were saying there was a lot of talk amongst the Newcastle fan base where I think who was their player that passed away, and Liverpool sang Atsu, yeah. Yeah. And they were mentioning that Liverpool fans, I actually forgot. They said when Newcastle went down to Anfield, they sang "You Never Walk Alone" for their player, and they want to return the favor. But I think because of the relationships and the banter and the noise, and it was always going to happen, wasn't it? But you know what? They still remained very, very respectful. And
there was one chat that you put in that you starred at the beginning of the night from a Newcastle fan when we first went live, and it was a brilliant message, and it was just like, well in, lads, you know, brilliant game, congratulations, well done, sort of thing. And that was from a Newcastle fan, and I think to yourself, you know, they're great, they're very proud, very similar to us in lots of ways, and they've had their pride really hit this summer because their star player has turned around and said he doesn't want to, you know, pull on the jersey no more, and that's tough to take for anybody, isn't it? Because he's their hero, and they build their stars around the strikers, don't they? You know, 100%. So it is, and it sounds like I'm taking the piss, or it sounds like I'm being what's called patronising, but I'm not. You know, they really are a proud fan base, and you know they created that. And I'm telling you now, I know we've talked so much about us not being anywhere near our level. Not many teams will go there and get 3 points this season.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a tough game to go to. Arsenal struggle there every time, don't they? So you know, it's a really tough game. So I'm just happy to get out with the 3 points.
100%. Okay, people, thank you so much. Great show. 1 hour 41. You got a bit extra of us tonight. We'll be back with the Transfer Daily. You never know. Stick around. It might be an important day tomorrow in the next 24 hours. But if anything happens, if nothing happens, I can guarantee you Jake will watch a rerun of the game in the next 24 hours. Take care. Have a good night. Bye for now.